Legacy is a wonderful thing. In the automotive context, it also becomes beautiful because when you have a model like this, which really has a lot of heritage, well, it's wonderful to take a look back at it. Now, the W201 was the baby Benz, arrived way back in 1982 at a time when compact sedans wasn't quite a thing at Mercedes-Benz. Daimler decided this model was required and it was a massive hit worldwide. So much so that it spawned the W202. This is when the C-Class nomenclature came into use for the first time and the legacy builds on. Now this car, of course, like I said, came in the early 90s, 93 to be exact, all the way to the turn of the century. You then had this car, and this one becomes significant in our context, the W203, which arrived from 2000 to 2007 globally. In India, though, arrived in 2001. The first time that we got the C-Class in India was with this car. It was, of course, rolled out of Pune, so special car from that perspective. The W204 is another car that we know well, followed as the next generation model, and also saw the popularity of the C-Class really sort of taking or cementing itself in the Indian market too. The car was phased out in 2014, and then we got what has been the current generation up until now, the 205, which had a model run from 2014 to 2021. It was with this generation that we started to see a very edgy, very stylish looking C-Class. And you know what? The 206 only builds on that now. Take a look at this car. This is the brand new car. That's the one we're all set to explore today. We are in the Queen of the Hills, Mussoorie, to test this car. The day began with a lot of anticipation and luckily with a clear and bright sky too. After being missing for a few months, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class model line is back in the Indian market. The W206 New Generation C made its global debut in 2021 and it is now here. It's one of the most important models for Mercedes-Benz in India, with over 37,000 units sold since 2001. It takes on heavyweights like BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, Volvo S60 and the Jaguar XE. Sharper, edgier and sexier. That's the overall styling change that you very obviously pick up on this car. In the front, it kind of reminds you of what's happening with the brand right now. You see that on the A-Class. At the rear, completely the baby S, as its tag suggests. Now, the car doesn't look bigger than the last one, and I think that's a good thing. You know, it's kind of getting a little old where all these new cars, they just get bigger and bigger with each generation. But guess what? It has grown just a tiny bit, 65 millimeters longer, 25 millimeters longer in just the wheelbase. The good part, 7 millimeters more of ground clearance, not a whole lot, but you know, more is always good in the Indian context. And it's 10 millimeters wider too. In the face here on this particular one, which is the C300, you see the AMG line really showing up, the star-studded front grille treatment and you know, the cooler digital LED lights as well as the two-tone alloy wheels. On the C200 and 220D, you'll get the avant-garde trim. The new hood with its power dome adds a sportiness to the C's look. The focus on the design is to enhance the sporty appeal, look wider and more ample. At the rear, the highlight is the shapely single-piece bumper that adds a touch of sensuousness to the car. The split tail lights, dual exhaust and neat shut lines make for a likeable derriere. On the C300D, you get that dual exhaust, while on the C200 and 220D, there is a 4 twin exhaust pattern built into the lower part of the bumper, just like in the previous car. So as you heard, Mercedes-Benz is giving us 3 variants in India: the C200 Petrol, C220D and the most powerful diesel in the segment, C300D, which incidentally matches the specs of cars one segment higher. Today I am testing 2 of them. The C300D uses the same engine block as the C220D, but with way more power at hand.
and the car's top speed is 250 kilometers per hour. And it is one of the cars with me. The one I don't have is the 220D, which also has pretty strong numbers. It also now has the claim of being the most fuel-efficient car in the Mercedes-Benz India lineup with a 23 kilometers per litre mileage figure. Impressive for a car of this segment, yes, making it class-leading. And finally, the C200, the sole petrol offering. Don't be fooled by the displacement alone, since the car's power and torque are substantial. All three engine options get the 9G Tronic gearbox as standard. And also the ISG, or Integrated Starter Generator, a 48-volt mild hybrid system. The electric motor offers up to 15 bhp of extra power and a substantial 200 Nm of peak torque. The idea is simple, that the system kicks in to ease the load on the engine in start-stop situations and provide the extra juice needed in dynamic or cruising situations. This gives the car optimum efficiency regardless of which engine type you're driving.
With the W205, the C-Class had gotten more dynamic, more sporty. It wasn't quite just the soft sedan anymore. I have to say, with the 206, that has happened again. And that's a good thing, because a lot of times driving enthusiasts were kind of left out in the cold. The other good thing about the car is that the extra enhancement and wheelbase kind of shows up in the back. It doesn't feel as cramped as it used to. But right now, let me focus on driving the car.
I have begun my drive on the C300D. The car's ample figures on paper translate to actual performance on the road straight off. I'll get to the petrol in just a bit.
So on the whole, I feel like the handling's gotten a lot sharper. You point it and it goes there, and the dynamics feel like they've been definitely worked on. It's a good thing, again, because it makes the car feel a little more enthusiastic than before. On the diesel, the C300, you get two versions of the same engine block tuned two different ways. 196 horses on the 220D. On this, the 300D though, you get a lot more, 260 horses. And you know what? They all come out to play. Oh yes, they do.
The new C-Class feels like a more agile and more balanced car. The C300D in particular feels sharp, and though the motor still suffers from a touch of lag, the overall refinement levels are superb.
The usual driving modes, and you've got this little dynamic button touch feel panel here, which lets you go from eco to comfort to sport to the individual mode. Individual is nice because it's become even more configurable over the last few years, and so you get that on this car as well.
On the sport mode, the car's 12.3-inch digital cluster takes on a sexy red-themed look, and the graphics to show revs are way cooler than a regular tacho. The ride quality on the new C is pliant but not too soft. The suspension does get a good workout on hard-edged bumps, which can travel up to the cabin. Regular undulations and potholes are dismissed with sheer nonchalance.
Technology plays a huge role in the new C-Class. It has something called Car2X. Saw that on the S-Class as well. Basically, what it means is that all the cars from the brand are now going to be talking to each other through the cloud, in the sense not directly to each other, but they're constantly relaying information, pretty much like how you see with Google Maps, right? It keeps updating information based on user patterns and what people report in. These cars will keep reporting in conditions, and so you will get information that the car will prompt you about. Everything from a sharp curve ahead to maybe a broken road surface, some kind of a traffic anomaly, even a pothole.
Car2X alerts work on all Mercedes-Benz cars with the MBUX interface, but only cars with the latest NTG7 version of MBUX can relay information to the cloud and therefore to other cars. The information has a 24-hour life, since most situations would be temporary. The C-Class does get the latest MBUX, and of course, the MBUX virtual assistant is ever ready to help.
Hey Mercedes, what's my driving range?
you can still drive 425 kilometers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, besides the latest MBUX 7.0 NTG, you also get a whole host of ADAS features on the new C-Class, including automatic emergency braking.
The theme of tech carries through in every aspect of the C-Class. And in the cabin, it's also all about luxury. The overall layout is completely new, and the centerpiece is the new vertical touchscreen angled towards the driver, measuring a generous 11.9 inches. Like most modern premium cars, the touchscreen also has all in-car controls and therefore gives the dash a clean, sophisticated look. Another highlight is the HD instrument panel with different themes and settings. The touchpad controls on the steering are now more flush. The left side lets you control the touchscreen and the right is for the instrument cluster. And they all work with a flick of a finger. It's just the same for the volume control too. The sunroof control is also similar with just a touch-sensitive panel rather than a switch or lever. A fingerprint recognition system lets you carry your profile into the car, which recognizes your music, connectivity, climate control, seat and mirror settings, and ambient preferences. The layout is very swish and the materials used look fabulous. The interior has a few color options, but this two-tone sienna brown and black combo on the C300 is a new addition, and it looks pretty great. No seat ventilation though, but overall the legroom and feeling of space is great compared to the last car. You do get the Burmester sound system, ambient lighting, a connected car telematics suite that works with the Mercedes Me Connect app, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, or either Alexa or Google Home integration.
So on the new C-Class, there's something new besides everything else that we've been talking about, and it's right here in the key fob. So that of course is the car, but what's new? You have the same buttons, but unlike the past, it's now the logo where you can lock the car by pressing the logo. Which other German brand has that and has had that for years? Of course it's BMW, so kind of like that. Promised you the petrol, and here it is, the C200. The color certainly helps me because it's one of my favorites from the Mercedes range. Cabin side blue, the last car had it too, and I'm pleased as punch that this one has it. Now, you'd think that petrol would be a huge mainstay given what's been happening in the market with the competition, but guess what? It's about a quarter of the overall portfolio for C-Class sales in India. So it's important, but that is why now you'll probably understand there are two diesel variants.
The bigger question for me though was all about how the car's 1.5 litre engine does on the road.
Now, two big things that are worth talking about. The first is the steering, and it gets stiffer. It's got a little more precision to it. It's got a weighted feel. I really like it, but don't worry if you're worried about it becoming too stiff. That's not what I'm saying. And in comfort mode, you'll still get that typical Mercedes-Benz feel, a C-Class feel. But the bigger thing is once again the EQ boost. Now, we explained to you how it works, but in the context of the petrol, it takes on a whole new meaning, because not only do you get extra power, all right, you got a little extra power, you get a lot more torque on this engine. That makes a massive difference. 200 Nm extra torque, which makes things a lot more fun.
Both those aspects play a role on the diesels too, but here on the C200, they really help the car shine. The response may feel staccato at times, but for the most part, it is a fun car to drive, especially on twisty roads. Prices of the outgoing C-Class start at nearly 50 lakh rupees, and I expect the new generation to be a bit pricier. Expect these variants to start at just over 50 lakh rupees and top off just above 60 lakh rupees. Loads of tech inside out, sexy design, sophisticated S-Class-like interior, safety, connectivity and multiple powertrain options make the new Mercedes-Benz C-Class quite the winner. The model is a worthy addition to the hallowed C-Class lineage and will likely be the most successful generation yet in India and the rest of the world.